I judge you by your dog. If your dog is friendly and outgoing and buoyant with happiness, then I'll assume you're a pretty cool person yourself. If your dog is a tiny ratty thing with a not-so-tiny bark that it has no problem inflicting upon the general public, then you have earned my silent, ultimately ineffectual judgment. Ralph White has a hell of a dog. I bring this up because frankly, I don't feel like I really got to know the man. I wouldn't necessarily describe him as evasive or unapproachable. I suppose after some reflection I realized that it simply seemed that he wasn't particularly eager to get his story out there or hungry for the exposure that the show would bring him. And I don't mean he was aloof or above it all. I mean he simply seemed perfectly comfortable with his life and felt no strong desire to justify his existence. I cannot think of a more alien concept, so of course, as is my way, I often found him to be intensely intimidating. I spent a day with Ralph and his dog Stella, and came away feeling like I had a good sense of who he was, even if the finer details of his life continued to elude me. Listening to Ralph speak is a lot like listening to Ralph's music. Free-flowing, improvisational, circuitous, occasionally confusing, and more than a little hypnotizing.
And I was in this band called Beret Texan in the 80s, and that's when I started playing accordion, and we played all this really cool old French traditional music from like the turn of the century and stuff, and there's all these tunes called, played lots of bourrées, and so I have this repertoire of French tunes that I played on the accordion. But anyway, like a few years ago, you know, when I was like learning all these tunes that were from my own particular culture, like Syd Barrett covers and things like that, I have all these like French instrumentals. I have to go let the chicken keep the chickens.
And this is how I got to know the man. Through his dog, through his friends, through his music. Sometimes it feels like most people have an autobiography mentally written, and they're ready to recite it at a moment's notice. Ralph, though, didn't seem obsessed with his own life story, and maybe he doesn't need to be. Maybe he feels it's all there in his songs.